Lucasfilm.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds podcast. I'm Dan Vadewalker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we just finished recording our episode of Media Nerds live here at the Brazen Hall pub in Winnipeg. We had a lovely lunch. And
it's really good. I just finished chewing now. Hours later.
I had beer and bacon and bourbon as the special of the day, which was quite good. The bacon was very spicy.
And we both got we got one little sippy cup of beer. It's pretty cute.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it's very baby sized. Maybe I should take a picture of it. Hang on. I should probably take a picture.
Yes, that's right. This is, if it was for my kids could drink beer, this is the glass that would be served to them.
There we go. Let's just get a shot.
So we spent our Media Nerds episode talking about San Diego and the Comic-Con that just ended this weekend, and just about all the different announcements and trailers that we saw. And of course, our friend Chris Schiffman was here. So if you want to listen to that, head over to, I guess it's on MediaNerdsPodcast.com, but also look for Media Nerds on Google Play or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
On Google Play?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on Google Play. The one we're not on yet is Spotify. I have to get us on Spotify. But there was
more people are listening to podcasts on YouTube.
Oh, I haven't done that yet.
I know. Maybe that's something we should do, is
maybe.
upload the audio to YouTube, since that appears to be more of a...
Maybe we can make some money at it.
Hey, we'll monetize. We'll be rich.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about that. Anyway, so basically, there was one major Star Wars announcement at San Diego we're going to talk about today, and that is, of course, the announcement that they are bringing back
the Clone Wars.
Which
Just a sec. Grown men are crying all around me as I say that.
I was quite surprised at the reaction. I was surprised at the announcement because I figured they would be announcing something new, not an old series coming back. That was one thing.
This is the first thing that Pablo knew that he didn't tell us when he was here for Fangirls.
Right, exactly.
That's what I thought.
No, he knew it was coming for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw them tweeting about it. And
Yeah.
it's funny because the hashtag they were using was hashtag Clone Wars saved. And my joke was, did it need saving? I didn't realize this was something that people wanted to be saved.
It was in response to the hashtag Save Clone Wars.
But I didn't know that was a hashtag back when it happened. It's back when it was canceled in like 2012 or something, right?
In fandom. But sometimes it's... Okay, it's used two different ways. It's used by big fans of the series as Save Clone Wars, like bring it back. Then it's also used as a term of disparagement for rebels. So they tweet, "Oh, will Ezra find his whatever?" And then people would put, "Save Clone Wars," like basically saying, "This is shit. Bring back Clone Wars."
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fandom, it was used quite often. I don't know. I mean, I didn't do a study, but it seemed to be just based on what I saw that it was used more often as a way to disparage rebels.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
or whenever something didn't appeal to fans, Save Clone Wars.
Right. Clone Wars represents the old Lucasfilm, not the Disney Lucasfilm, because that was the last major project that Lucasfilm completed.
That George Lucas himself worked on.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
well,
I guess,
other than the treatments he did for the...
But those don't seem to be...
Well, we don't know.
Yeah. So anyway...
but that's the thing I'd want to know most from Pablo.
Well,
have you read them, and what are they? But he won't tell us.
Well, we didn't ask him when he was here.
Yeah, but I guess those were the last things that George Lucas worked on.
Right, exactly. But the Clone Wars was the last series he completed. It was the only TV series he did as a producer, and it all came from his mind. Like, this is the story that he wanted to have told. But I'm confused because I wasn't aware. Like, I get that it was canceled. I think they had the last season was on Netflix only. Isn't that right? Season 6 was a Netflix only thing.
Yeah, and it was sort of odds and sods. Like it was almost nonsensical.
Okay.
Because it was like they just finished them and put them out.
Okay. So
sort of thing.
There was no wrap up finale kind of a thing?
No, it was almost like if you're watching your favorite TV series and then the last season the money kind of ran out and maybe like something else got their attention.
I made a joke about Airwolf the other day on social media.
What's that?
Airwolf was that TV show with the helicopter that was kind of like a super helicopter. It had the turbo boosters and the dun, 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 dun. The theme song is very iconic.
Airwolf. I was thinking, what was the CBC show that I like to make fun of? They rescued things from rocks. What was that? That was an Airwolf.
Beachcombers? No. Oh, no. Air
Air something.
Yes. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So was that Airwolf?
No,
was
that's
that
not
what they
Airwolf.
did? Oh.
Airwolf was like the 80s had kind of an obsession after Knight Rider. There was a bit of an obsession about super vehicles. Like Kit was a super car, so Airwolf was a super helicopter, but it didn't talk. And the final season of Airwolf, someone pointed this out to me after I made my joke, is that the final season of Airwolf was just shot with like stock footage of helicopters. They didn't actually shoot any new footage of helicopters, so it was super low budget. I
love that in old movies. Cut to the stock footage. Cut to the World War II footage sometimes, and it's like, what?
So yeah, I guess I didn't because I not finished watching Clone Wars. I didn't realize that it didn't end that way. It didn't end well. And to me, I mean, the end of the Clone Wars is episode 3. That's how that story ends, right? Because it takes place between episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Why do we need another season of this?
But not just that. Like the Clone Wars series, part of the reason I watched all of them. But I'm hazy on a lot of them because it skips time, it skips storylines. Some stories are tight and great. Like the Darth Maul stuff, I loved. I just soaked it up. I remember a lot of that stuff. Some of the clones stuff was great. But then for everything like that, there was like whales and like Lord knows, like weird kind of asides where you went like, well, I'm not interested in whatever this is.
Halfway between like episodic television and serialized television.
Right.
Where they would have serialized arcs for like 2 or 3 episodes, and then they would go back to like a one-off episode that you could just kind of not even have to watch. And there are actually guides out there. If anybody wants to catch up, you can look online and find guides as to the episodes to watch in order, because there is a lot. It's 6 seasons of like 20-ish episodes each, so there's a lot of episodes to get through. That's why I've not watched it all, because I don't have time to get through all of it.
Like if you knocked out a couple a day, you're done pretty quick. Like
I tried doing that and I lost interest. I tried doing that with the first couple seasons,
and part of it is because it jumps around.
And because I know how it ends. I know that Anakin becomes Darth Vader. I know how the story ends, and I don't really need to see the series to see that story.
You
take
could
place.
probably go to any one that has the Darth Maul in the. Little...
I did that. No.
Okay.
You told me to do that, and I did that.
Yeah.
I did watch the Darth Maul.
Oh, so
series.
those are good, right?
So those are very good. Yes, and
the brother of Darth Maul.
Yeah, and all that stuff.
Savage Opress.
There are, and then even Pablo referred to the fact that it got pretty dark in the end, like darker than they'd ever gotten with Star Wars before. And I just was not aware that this was a thing that was in demand and people really wanted to see.
Well, I guess it gives them the opportunity, although they did not make any promise. I think it's a 12-episode series, but they didn't say that that's where it would end, I don't think. I don't think they said, unless I missed something. They didn't say. I played the whole panel and listened to it.
They didn't say anything about like a continuing season, just 12 new episodes and that's it?
And then and we're back. Basically, is all Filoni said. So I don't know. I don't think I looked it up today. I didn't see anything other than the 12. Maybe they'll see how the 12 episodes do. But it's also part of Disney's new direct-to-consumer channel,
yeah,
or whatever. So who knows how that's going to go, too. But a lot of the stuff that I heard. So I played the panel. It's fine. And really, what happened was they had the long discussion, and then in the last 2 minutes of the panel, they're like, all right, we want to show you something. And so they showed it the first time, and everybody went crazy. They cheered and went nuts. And then he said, let's play it again. And then they played it again. And it was like, yeah, we're back. Bye. Panel over. like that. It was kind of like, and you get a free poster on your way out. Don't let the poster hit you on the ass.
Right.
And so everybody left. And so I don't know. It was almost like, let's just let this percolate. We're not going to answer everyone's question right now.
Well, they're going to save that for Celebration next year, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff. Okay, and so when is this supposed to come out, this series?
Oh, man, I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't remember that.
Okay. So, but
like basically the big pay, it's back.
And they have the same voice actors coming up to play Anakin.
Yep.
We presume that and Obi-Wan and all those other guys. The clips in the trailer have Rex's voice.
Yeah, and there's cool. It's a cool trailer.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of reference to. So we're going to see probably a little bit. I mean, there are stories they can wrap up in here. Like we can find out how Rex and his buddies ended up on that planet they ended up on in Rebels.
Right. And Rebels did rob Clone Wars of some of the storylines, like including everybody's favorite Jedi. Why can't I think of her name?
Ahsoka,
God.
Ahsoka, yeah. Well, what they're saying there is that...
boy, I can't believe I couldn't think of that.
They had a falling out. That Anakin and Ahsoka had a falling out that kind of came together with their fight it had a resolution in Rebels, but we don't know how they fell out.
Right, but Rebels sort of stole some of the here's what happened. Some of the solutions or conclusions
Right.
that the Clone Wars.
So we know where that's
probably
going to
would-
end.
Right. So that probably would have been good in the Clone Wars. But I was actually surprised at. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be, but people who show up at Celebration and the only Star Wars, or not Celebration, at Comic-Con, and the only Star Wars news is Clone Wars, are clearly Clone Wars fans. And so there was yelling and screaming like it was a new trailer for a new movie. And like as I said to you, I tweeted you like, it's hard to get. I'm not as pumped about the animation as I am about the films.
Me too.
But it's super niche fandom again. Whereas like
well,
the people
I would
who,
be. I mean, I really did like Rebels, but I did also watch it from the beginning. And it's not as many episodes because it was only 4 seasons, and they weren't all super long. So Rebels was something more manageable for me.
Yeah, and
The Clone Wars-
some seasons were better than others, and even on
Right.
the weaker seasons, there's the occasional episode where, with enough excitement, that it sort of kept you going through.
And there was a lot of little tidbits in there that helped kind of build out the universe that I really enjoyed, like our hyperspace whales and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that
More whales.
Pablo referred to in his solo panel at FanQuest. We can probably kind of talk about what he said about them. But I think these little things that they're trying to use to build out the universe are interesting.
Well, that's in Pablo's book, that item. So people who bought the book would know that the oil in Solo
Whatever
is,
it is, like whale oil.
is the whale
the stuff
oil
that
from
they're stealing in Solo. It comes from those whales,
Right, in
'Cause
Rebels,
they can navigate hyperspace.
I believe that's in
on their
Pablo's
own.
book, so I think
Okay.
it's out there.
Okay.
Well,
we
if it's not, we just spoiled one tiny little element.
Buy the
of
book.
A very
It's very
long,
good.
It's an hour-long presentation he does, so...
So yeah, I was not very excited about it. I was surprised at the reaction. I was, but I was also expecting other stuff from Lucasfilm that we didn't get. There's no word yet on the next films, on the Rian Johnson films, or on the Jon Favreau series. There's all kinds of stuff they could have talked about that they didn't.
What's interesting to me is, the most interesting thing about this announcement is, what does this have to do with the movies?
Right.
And when I think about where the movies are going, hey, it doesn't hurt to have Obi-Wan stories out there if there's going to be an Obi-Wan movie. I kind of go, maybe that leads into the other in a way.
But it's still them building in this kind of this pear shape of
Yes.
this time period that we've already got a ton of stuff happening, and there's still these characters that we're familiar with, and I really, really want them to go outside of that.
Probably
and come up with
80% of Star Wars takes place in that.
in that 10-year period.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Speaking of which, I just finished Thrawn, which is the novel by Timothy Zahn, who, of course, is the author that brought us he's the one who started the extended universe with the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and he created the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was brought back to life in Rebels. He was a non-canon character that they made canon when they brought him into Rebels. This book is also canon. Everything they create now is canon going forward. So this book tells kind of the origin story of Thrawn and how he became enlisted in the Navy, the Imperial Navy, and how he rose up the ranks and all that other stuff. And it's very interesting in that he is the protagonist, and you're kind of rooting for him. He's the bad guy and everything else, but in this book, he is kind of the guy you're rooting for because he's got to deal with a racist empire who doesn't like aliens. He's got all this other stuff. He doesn't know how to deal with politics at all. He's a military mind. He doesn't know. So it's a very good book overall, very well written. And there is a hint at something that I'm sure is going to be coming in this. Now that they announced this season of Clone Wars, they make mention of a time where he did work with Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, which we've not seen happen. So I'm guaranteed that he's going to be there for an episode or two of Clone Wars. We're going to see Thrawn show up before all this stuff happened, like the earliest version of that character will show up in this coming season of Clone Wars.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know.
Also, we'll probably see Maul.
I think I really did like the series, and I do think it's good that they have a chance to wrap it up properly. But at the same time, I have to say I was really surprised, with, as I say, the grown men crying kind of thing over the animated series, where and I'm starting to
although those grown men were likely kids when the series came out.
Right, so, that's right, and it's one piece of the Star Wars fan base's fandom is this series, is this thing. And for them, that's what Star Wars is. There's no doubt about it. But to me, if I would have gone to Comic-Con and seen this panel, that's probably the best possible news you could get at a panel like that, or maybe the most exciting.
Was it like an anniversary panel, or how?
Yeah, it was a 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary of the first Clone Wars.
I guess it must have been.
Series.
Is this the movie? Remember when the movie came out
that
in
was
theaters?
horrible. It was such a bad.
I went to see it.
I fell asleep in the theater. I did.
I saw a little boy dressed as Darth Vader there. That's what I remember. Then I remember seeing him standing at the back doors of the theater waiting for his ride.
It was a late screening. I'd been up all day, very, very busy day.
Yeah.
I went with some of my friends, and it was boring as hell, and I fell asleep in the theater. That was a really bad movie. And I tried rewatching it a couple years ago, and it's not good. But the series was much better, and the series did.
And the animation quality has gotten continuously better.
Absolutely.
The new stuff looks great.
But it's going to be the same style as the original series. Like, they're not changing it. They're not going to make it look like Rebels or anything like that.
It almost does a little in the trailer. I don't know. I mean, it's like a little Rebels, little Clone Wars. They still sort of have their geometric faces, I noticed.
But it's still Dave Filoni is still the
He's
guy
still
in charge?
the guy. Yeah, he's still the animation guy, it seems.
Okay, and
I don't
he's
know
got
if
that other
you're
series coming out called Resistance,
Right.
which is going to tell the story about. It's going to be a post Return of the Jedi story about the Resistance.
That to me is the most interesting time frame that I would like to see explored in an animated series.
Another book I took out from the library is the I'm giving Aftermath another try, Aftermath Life Debt, which I couldn't listen to. I tried listening to it as an audiobook, couldn't get through it, so I'm going to try reading it. And that continues the story. And basically, I think this story is telling how the First Order is formed. And apparently, the Thrawn has something to do with that as well. Because Thrawn gave them Thrawn gives them a good sense of the outer fringes of the galaxy, like the unexplored parts. And so that's where the Empire goes to reform as the First Order, apparently. So I've not read that part yet, but that is kind of my next book that I'm reading.
See, I'm hoping, like with the Rian Johnson trilogy, I'm hoping that it goes either one of two things: either Knights of the Old Republic, which would be great. Like, hey, let's get away from all of this stuff, and we've got the video game source material, which is pretty good. Like the outlines for the stories.
It's a little derivative of Star Wars itself, but they could take that setting and make it something else.
That's right, exactly.
I mean, in the game, you have to start out as the smuggler character and blah, blah, blah. So it's very much like, and you have a ship, and
you got to kit out your
droid
and
that kind of stuff. Like, there's very much stuff that's kind of regular Star Wars stuff, but they could take the world in which you live in is very different, and then you can take that and make a series
I don't want a remake of the video game, to be clear, but something that's set in that time, or I want something so far into the future that it's almost unrecognizable.
But wouldn't it be cool if you said it's so far into the past that they didn't have technology, like almost like a Game of Thrones? Like, we're talking like the Force is seen as magic,
right?
And they're wizards, and there's like, knights, like real knights with swords and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I think that would be a cool.
We need Star Wars needs to stretch its legs.
Remember Medieval Spawn? Todd McFarlane's Spawn character. There was a medieval Spawn. There was like a series, like a part of that comic book. There was parts where they tell stories of previous generations of Spawn, and there's one where he has like armor and stuff, and he's like a knight in medieval times.
That's
hilarious. Very cool. But this would be medieval Star Wars.
Yeah.
It'd be very cool.
Like, we're ready, I think. We're ready to do it.
Yeah.
And by the way, lately what I've been thinking, and even the Clone Wars made me think this, less Star Wars is better Star Wars in lots of different ways. Like the torture, part of being a Star Wars fan has always been the torture of waiting. And if there's no torture of waiting, then it's kind of like it's less impactful, which is what we saw with Solo.
Yeah.
Especially the shortest wait ever.
Yes.
It was less impactful.
The biggest quote-unquote failure.
I wouldn't even mind if they took a little bit of time. Let's take a breather here, folks. And
we don't, honestly, I don't know when this Disney thing is launching, this Disney streaming service, but we don't have another episode until next Christmas 2019.
Right.
So still more than a year away from that, and that'll be good. That's a good long wait. And I think that movie will do very well, especially since it's the third film in the trilogy, and
I hope
all this other stuff. I think it's going to do very well.
It's almost like, or are all the trolls just like hibernating for a year?
No, they won't.
Because that was horrible.
That was awful. And I think that's done now. I think we're past that whole
Have we
phase.
reached the acceptance part of the stages of depression? Or
denial?
Denial, anger,
mourning,
depression, acceptance. So I think we're in acceptance.
I think so.
Point.
I think we have to get there, and this whole unfortunate issue with the fandom, I think that'll be gone.
I mean, Star Wars takes it on the chin for its bad fandom, but isn't that every fandom now?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't see a difference really.
Yes, it's just more. People are more aware of the Star Wars one right now because it's in the news, but that stuff still happens with Game of Thrones, and with Star Trek, with every major fandom.
Right, and just because I'm not the biggest animation fan of Star Wars animation doesn't mean that I can't let somebody else be excited for
Yes,
it and
exactly,
enjoy
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that's the way it should work. But it's just a different. So we're living in a world of micro fandom. I mean, we just have to accept it. And everybody giving us what we want, maybe more than what we want. Especially Marvel. When I look at Marvel and how many Marvel movies there are and stuff, and it's like, wow, too much of a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with starving people a little, for their fandom. There's
Except
nothing
in real
wrong
life,
with it.
except actually starving people.
No, starve them. Literally starve them, and starve them of their fandom.
That's right. No, I think I guess I just like I said, I just saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I'm all up to speed on the new Marvel films, and I don't think. I don't know. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
Yeah.
It's not like mind blowing or anything like that, but
Just like the first one.
yeah, I know. But I would say it's better than the first one. But I think that we're getting a little bit too many of these films. We had 3. We had Black Panther, which was not, in my opinion, a great film, although many people liked it. Avengers: Infinity War was okay. You didn't like
I
it.
hated it.
And
I
was
wasn't
okay.
a huge Black Panther fan either.
No. But
it had elements that I liked, but to me, Infinity War was half a movie, a bad half, for a bad half of a movie that maybe we didn't even need.
So what was the last great Marvel film that came out?
That I loved?
Yeah.
Thor.
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
The last one.
Yeah.
And I agree.
I
It
loved
was
it.
very good. And that was, again,
Yeah.
kind of a one-off, though. That was a very unusual.
Yes.
It was like they took this franchise, which was Thor,
Right.
and they had 2 mediocre films in the first 2 Thor movies. Although I think the first one's quite good.
The first one's very good.
But the second one was not very well received. And then they just said, okay, well, let's give it to somebody. And they gave it to
Mm-hmm.
Taika Waititi and said, what can you do with it? And he did something awesome with it. And I think that's what they should do more of, but they're not. That's kind of the exception to the rule. And I think that's what's going to happen in Star Wars, is that's going to become the exception to the rule, where we have, and we're seeing it already. We're seeing, the directors being fired, the ones who are not making movies that are Star Wars enough.
Yeah.
Although now that I've seen Solo, I kind of think it was probably a good call to fire those guys and bring in Ron Howard. I don't know what that movie would have been.
No, I don't
But
either.
it's pretty good
Yeah.
as it is. So it turned out fine.
I think what all of these franchises are struggling with is Coca-Cola exists on no surprises. You want to buy Coca-Cola, and if they change the recipe, people lose their mind. So they're okay, are we Coca-Cola, or do we need a reboot? Does the brand need a reboot? I think everybody is asking themselves that question, and they're making various choices within the overall overarching brand.
Yes.
So that's why Thor can be more adventurous and funny. To me, that was the big surprise of the first Thor movie. I
That was
was
funny.
he's the most boring, awful Marvel character. I'm not interested. And then when it was a comedy, basically, I was like, oh my God, this is great. They saved it because they realized that the character is comical. And if it's just some stuffy, ye old English speaker, it's going to be horrible. So I think Star Wars is a bit of in that problem right now.
But there's still some good laughs in the last. I watched The Last Jedi
Yeah.
this weekend again. Luke and I watched The Last Jedi. Although again, I dozed off during the Canto Bight stuff, but there's still some good laughs in that movie. And I still think it's a good movie. It gets better every time I watch it.
Now that
The
I've
Last
seen
Jedi
it,
is very good.
Now that I've seen The Last Jedi a number of times, I can see the parts that I would. I mean, and who knows? I mean, when looking back on any movie, you can always say this,
Right.
but I can
Yeah.
see the parts that kind of drag a little bit, and the parts that are awesome, and how it might have been. That's a long movie, and how it might have been a shorter movie but tighter, sort of a tighter story.
Sure.
Maybe when we do our commentary, we'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, which we have to do. I know we're still
Yeah.
behind on that. It's funny because Solo is coming out in September or something like that.
September.
So we're gonna do.
And one of the deleted scenes is one Pablo told us about, which is the foot chase at the
Okay.
beginning of the movie on Corellia.
Yeah.
Where he sort of told us what happens and how. Well, I guess we won't spoil. It's going to be
he
a
said
deleted scene.
what he was talking about was how they make characters in these films, and then the characters become toys, and he puts them in his book, and then they get cut from the final movie. I guess
Right.
Captain Zuvio is the best example of that. Constable Zuvio, sorry,
Yeah.
from The Force Awakens, where they actually made a figure for him, and he's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is the same kind of thing where there was reference to these are they stormtroopers? I don't remember, these guards or somebody who's chasing him through the streets of Corellia, and then they ends up getting cut. So these guys are not in the movie, but they're still referred to in the book or referred to in the.
That deleted scene is one of the extras that they're providing. Thank you.
Well, cool. Well, I mean, so we're gonna have to do that one. We're gonna have to do Last Jedi. We're
Yeah.
very behind on that, but I'm looking forward to doing that. We'll do it when you get back to work.
Yeah.
At the college, and we'll be able to watch it in the studio.
And I was also thinking for Clone Wars, I'm not going to subscribe to Disney service, though you might.
I will. Yeah, I have to. It's a done deal.
I'll bet in Canada it won't. It'll be on Disney XD.
Well,
I hope not in the shitty way that they.
Well, it's
put on Rebels.
interesting to see what will happen with this scenario because, they have this whole issue with who owns the rights to what in Canada and other countries. And in some countries, things are on Netflix when they're not on Netflix here. And they still have these series like all these Marvel series that are on Netflix. They still have a couple of Star Wars movies. I think Rogue One is still on Netflix, as is The Last Jedi. I'm sure Solo will be on Netflix for a while. But The Force Awakens is no longer. Oh, maybe it is. Is Force Awakens still on Netflix? I'm not sure.
I believe it is.
So this stuff, but none of the original ones are. None of the original films or the
Right.
or the prequels are on Netflix. So that tells you something. We presume that all of the films will be on the new service.
Yeah.
So to me, that's worth it because I don't currently own all the movies. I own the original trilogy, and that's it.
I do own all
Yeah.
of them, but some of them. But the funny thing is, even though I have the DVD, the first thing I do is I cash in the iTunes whatever code, and then I have it on demand on my Apple TV. And
you
then if
don't
I want
bother
to
with
watch
the
it
DVD
again,
anymore.
I don't even. I've never actually played the DVD for
Interesting.
a number of them. So I'm starting to ask myself why I'm doing that.
Why not just buy it on iTunes?
Why not just?
Because you could buy it on iTunes.
Yeah, you can.
But how many times have you purchased this trilogy, Kenton?
Oh, but you know what the other thing is? You and I, when we do a commentary, we need a DVD.
We do. Oh no, we
To
can
do
do
the
it on iTunes.
commentary. Well, could we do it on
Yeah,
iTunes?
we could. Yeah, we have a Mac.
Because this is the first time that they did not include a normal DVD in with the Blu-ray.
No, that's fine. No, we can use the iTunes service.
Or my God, or a Netflix. Now that I think about
Well,
it.
the thing is, Bud, I'm noticing that, and I've been talking about going to the library a lot, and I've been using the library to
Yeah.
rent Blu-rays, and there is a difference between Blu-ray and Netflix. There's
there
a
is,
huge
yeah.
difference in sound quality and picture, and I
It's
absolutely
better.
see it. It is
Yeah,
much better on
that's
Blu-ray.
right,
It is
it is.
absolutely better on Blu-ray. So that is the reason why I would want to own these films
I
on
know.
Blu-ray. So at some point, I will have to buy it all.
We live in a good enough world. Remember when we would have been kids, they would have sold stereos as better audio. Like they sold it like you're
is the
basically
best ever.
you're a rube if you don't buy this beautiful sound system for $1 million. And people did. They went for it. People about 10 years older than me, a friend of mine, he's like that guy. He's the audio like no. How can you listen to this when the channels aren't separated just so? Like he's like that guy. And but now. And it was like with the iPod. It was like good enough. Like
Earbuds in your
10,000
ears.
songs. That's right.
Yeah, earbuds in your
It's like,
ears.
that's not the best sound. It's better on a beautiful stereo, but good enough.
Yep.
And I think that's what most people do with
My
movies
kids
now.
are used to hearing sound through either the iPhone or
Yeah.
computer speakers. There's no surround sound in my house.
Yeah.
And Netflix or streaming services are just fine. They're not concerned with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
right. As long as it sounds good, as long as you can hear what they're saying,
That's right.
it's good enough. So that's interesting. That's true. So yeah, I don't know. Going back to the Clone Wars announcement, we'll see what happens out of this. Again, I'm betting that. Do you have any other predictions for the series other than?
Well, what I was thinking and what I was asking myself, and I don't know if I came up with an answer, is what do we need them to do? What like I guess Snoke could have been around then.
Oh, that might be interesting.
Like, that's all I can think of. Like, what could they do?
Well, I know
that's
they'll
not-
bring Thrawn. They'll be Thrawn and
Right.
Thrawn into. We'll probably see Maul at some point because we know Maul's
right.
active in that
Right.
time. We might see Han Solo.
But we don't want this But we don't want this to just become another Rebels where Ahsoka shows up and
We
what I
didn't
mean.
see Solo in Rebels.
No, we
saw
did not.
Lando, but not
Did
Solo.
we not?
Nope, no Solo.
We saw Chewie though.
Saw Chewie. We saw Luke at a distance.
Right.
We saw almost every other character from the original
True.
films, but not
Leia,
Han Solo.
Tarkin.
And the droids were in there as well.
Lando.
So, yeah, Lando. So, but we could see. Who else could we see in there? We could see something having to do with Scarif and the Death Star. Like there's that was actually a big part of the Thrawn novel as well, where the Empire is diverting all these things to this project, and it's kind of the secret project that nobody knows about. But of course, Thrawn figures it out because he's super smart. And so this is also happening in this time period as well. So there's lots of stuff they can do. But again, I just you're right. We don't need them to actually do anything because we already know how it ends. We know that Luke gets into a battle with Obi-Wan. We know he falls into the lava and becomes Darth Vader, and that's that.
Yeah. Did you say Luke?
Oh,
Or
so
Anakin?
I meant Anakin.
Yeah.
What I meant was Obi-Wan, actually.
I was
Anakin.
Anakin
also-
and Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Time for me to rewatch the Clone Wars.
No, I was just waiting for crazy Star Wars fans to get angry at us.
And we could also have more Mace Windu, I suppose, because he's still alive in this time period.
That's a potential big surprise. I thought the only thing I could think of was Snoke, as in, hey, he's an old dude. He might have been up to something.
Well,
up
now
to
they
no
can do
good.
it because they killed him off in the film, so they can pretty much do what they want with the character and the other stuff.
Well, unless they have something else in mind. Unless he could, it wouldn't surprise me if they reincarnated him in the last movie. J.J. Abrams was like, you edited my film, now I'm going to edit yours, pal.
That's right.
Just
No,
go change it.
They gave him robot legs. He was cut in half, and then they gave him robot legs, so
That's
he's
right.
still alive.
Give him robot, just like a metal band around his middle.
Overall, I guess I was pretty underwhelmed with the whole thing, and I'm not hugely excited about it.
No, it's fine, and it's
fine.
good. And
I'm
good.
not. I mean, I probably will watch it, but I'm not going to rewatch all the entire Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
To catch up because I just don't have time.
To me, it's not the level of excitement as in we're making a live-action Clone Wars film.
Right. Oh, that would be cool.
And Ewan McGregor's back as Obi-Wan or whatever. Like,
yes,
like we're going to wrap it up with a live-action film.
That would be awesome.
Right.
And get Anakin Skywalker back and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah. Like people would go crazy.
Yes, they would.
To have Hayden and Obi-Wan back. But there is a movie called Attack of the Clones. So that's the problem, eh? Everybody thinks they saw it already.
Revenge of the Clones. No.
Revenge of the Attack of the Clones.
the last clone.
The last attack of the Revenge of the Clones.
Anything else to talk about? Have you gotten any new toys or anything lately?
No, it has been a pretty desperate situation these days. There's nothing being shipped.
I saw some nice
Walmart,
displays.
check out the Star Wars section in your local
it's
Walmart.
pretty.
It's horrible.
I check it every day,
It's
every time I
terrible,
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do look.
There's nothing. It's garbage. It's a garbage pile.
I saw a nice display at San Diego. Someone tweeted out with all the Han Solo figures.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Mattel had this kind of display of the first of all they had these all these different versions
Hasbro.
of the new, it's Hasbro. Sorry, all these different versions of the new Solo, like all the Ehrenreich Solo, and then they had all the original Han Solo characters underneath the actual toys.
Wow.
But I don't know what it was supposed to be promoting. I guess it was just to tie into Solo.
There was a Hasbro panel
at
Comic-Con, and they announced 15 new Star Wars Black figures, and I'm at the point where it's kind of like it's too onerous for me to have to buy mail order, to buy them online. So it's like if I see them, I'll buy them still, but it's almost getting to the point where nothing's being shipped here. And I don't know, I think the death of Toys R Us, not in Canada, but I think everywhere
Overall,
else, I thought what would happen is we'd be flooded with stock here, but it really hasn't. If anything, there's less stock than I've ever seen.
Interesting.
All of the, what do you call them? The deluxe figures are at Toys R Us here. There's a Stormtrooper with battle damage. Not interested. There's Luke in the land speeder. That's $1,000. It's so expensive. It's just why?
Yeah.
That's for somebody who only buys one thing. So no, it's actually been pretty dismal. I've not seen anything new or exciting or interesting. Other than what they announced at Comic-Con.
So
but I don't know if any of that will ever come here.
What do you want? What's the thing you want the most out of those announcements?
Actually, the figure that Pablo talked about was the Stormtrooper that's not in the movie or barely in Solo. Remember the guy with he's got the black pants or whatever?
Right.
That dude.
Yeah.
And he's in Pablo's book. That guy is a Star Wars Black figure, and he looks pretty cool.
Okay.
Oh, and Beckett is a Star Wars Black figure. Just some of that stuff.
Woody Harrelson as a figure would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
I'd like to look at it. I want to see what it looks like.
Keep it in the box and place it on my shelf.
Maybe. Yeah, so they do great work and they make great stuff, but it's clearly I'm starting to see a world where more middle-aged men are interested in toys than kids.
Yes.
It's bizarre.
That's
your
great.
kids love the online stuff. They more than actual toys, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And they love the video games and stuff more than the actual toys.
Yeah.
If you give them a toy, they'll play with it, but they're not asking me to go buy that stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. So it's a different world. So who knows? It wouldn't surprise me if there's fewer releases moving forward, more collectible style stuff less frequently.
Could be,
especially with fewer Toys R Us's. Or what I wish Disney would do is have a direct.
Well, shouldn't you be able to go to the Disney store and buy this stuff?
Yeah, well, they don't have those. They have the metal figures and some of the other stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it's not. It's the kids stuff, right?
Yeah.
They don't really have the.
But they should have that. They should have that stuff available at Disney
stores.
Oh,
that'd be great if they did.
That's their direct line to the customer, right? So
I would sooner have a direct to purchase of merch from Disney franchise stuff than video streaming service from Disney.
Okay, interesting.
I'd probably use that more.
Huh.
I'd buy, like Chris Schiffman. I would be excited if there was a Disney Prime Day.
Okay, well, I guess it's Force Friday for Star Wars if they do that still, which they're probably not going to do
I
this
don't
year.
think. Well, I got up early last year and there's nothing.
But I mean, we're still like a year and a half away from the next movies, so
That's true.
all right. I think that's going to do it for this episode.
So we talked it out. We'll see what happens.
with what, Clone Wars?
Yeah. Let's see.
well,
we'll watch it. We're reserving judgment for now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna jump at the opportunity, but again, I will sign up for the service when it comes out, and I'll report back and let everybody know how it is.
Perfect.
Yes, and thank you to the Brazen Pub for hosting us here
Yes,
at
it
the
was
podcast.
great.
A very good lunch and
Yeah.
some great beer. So if you guys are really looking for a great place to hang out, come on down to the Brazen Pub, where the
old round table
used to be, right?
It's the new round table.
Near Pemina and Jubilee. I came the wrong way, by the way. I came up Bishop. I forgot where I was going. So.
Well,
I
I
should've come up
suggested
Jubilee.
a place that had been closed way down Pemina, so
Okay.
there's no point.
No.
Yeah.
Come to the Brazen Hall. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Dig up that old fossil. That's no moon.
Now I am the master.
TK421, you copy?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.